So, I could also work for the Chamber of Commerce for Austin because one thing that I love to do is when friends are coming into town, share with them all the places to visit and restaurants to try. So I invite you to ping me when you are in town next, and I'll give you a list of must tries when you're here.
That's amazing. You and I have opposite strategies, my friend. I try to be the Chamber of Commerce for Denver. So I send everybody to Denver. There's great restaurants over there. Broncos are there. Go check it out. Nothing to see here in Salt Lake City, Utah. Go over there is fine.
That's hilarious. I love
Different strategy.
it.
I wanted to start this conversation with something I find interesting, and I feel like you guys and yourself have done this very consciously. Your title is Chief Health Officer. I feel like most
Mm,
places that title would be Chief Medical Officer, but you chose.
mm.
I want to say I would think you would choose that very consciously. Can you tell us about your health title and or your job title and why you chose it?
Gosh, we could spend a good portion of this show talking about this very thing, which I won't. But yes, so you're right. Um, when a company hires a person in a scientific role at a scientific company, they are most often looking towards a medical person to direct those initiatives. Is that always the right person? That was the question that I asked and had conversations with Jeffrey Pfeffer, who is a professor at the Stanford Business School for maybe 40 years, and he wrote the book Dying for a Paycheck. In that book, he writes about this exact same thing. Who is the right person to lead the initiatives around how to make a person healthy within an organization? And the chief health officer role can really be a variety of different things. So if you're at a non-scientific company, you could also have a chief health officer role. Let's say if you're a company of 1,000 person or more that is looking to at the health of the people who are working there. And so as a table of executives are thinking about strategies to make the company more profitable, that there should be an advocate, someone who is on in that conversation who is also thinking, but what kind of health toll will this have on our people? And then putting in ideas that make sure that we're taking care of the health of the people who are working there. That would be for a larger company. So you can see here a chief health officer role can do different things. At Qualia, since we are a science oriented company, we are really not working in the medical sick care space. We are working in health promotion, what we call scientific wellness. And for that, we need to figure out all sorts of strategies that are aligned with helping a person to improve their health and health span in a variety of ways. And of course, while we do make supplements, it's not the end of our ambition. A big part of what we do is in education. So putting out what we hope is excellent health information and also talking, as you mentioned in my bio, creating protocols that say, okay, we have, let's say, a particular goal. Yes, supplementation can maybe be a part of that, but what is everything else that you can do to help maximize your impact from your efforts on achieving this thing that you hold as important in your life? So that is really fun for me because I have become a generalist by design. And in fact, some speaking that I've done, like at the Institute for Human Machine Cognition, is advocating for a new position in our healthcare system, one that it would be equivalent to a primary care doctor, your first point of contact when you are dealing with any sort of health issue. This would be your first point of contact, but in the health and the more of the wellness space. So I call that position the health performance expert. And this position is not just treating you, but training you. They're helping you. You're developing skill in your own life. So very different paradigm because with the medical side, it's about I'm the doctor. I have a lot of knowledge, and what I would hope is that you do what I say because I think it's going to be a great benefit to you. With the health performance expert side, it's different. It's all right, there is knowledge that exists. We need to make you more knowledgeable and better enabled to then change your pattern of living so that you now can take better care of yourself. And of course, we have a very valuable role in our healthcare team. So that idea has been completely underserved by our healthcare system, and it shouldn't be, uh, confrontational or oppositional. In an ideal world, you would have a very harmonized existence between the sick care and the self care side, and so that is some philosophical thinking that I've had on the role and introduced that when we started to have conversations with Qualia to say, hey, there's a lot of really good stuff that we can do here. Let's expand the vision of what this role actually is. And then we'll have that be a guiding principle for all the work that I'm contributing to at the company.
That's amazing. Thank you for that explanation. And I'm not done asking you questions about the topic, but I feel like now would be actually a really good time to get some context as to how you became interested in research and science and how you became interested in human performance as well.
Yeah, yeah. So, my story goes back to playing sports when I was young, being very passionate about performing, wanting to do my best. I got injured. The injury made me take a deeper interest in wanting to understand how I could heal my body and get back onto the field or court. And that changed me. So, in a way, a very negative experience of twisting an ankle ultimately I think led to the career that I am in. So was maybe it was a good thing in some ways. And because I did start to read more about the body, I did become the default performance coach for my teams growing up. Like, what do you drink before you play? What's the best thing you should do after? All those questions totally engaged my mind, and that led to me pursuing. When I went to college, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I took everything in the sports science department and then eventually I did realize that I liked the physiology of exercise. So went to Florida State to pursue my master's in exercise physiology. And it was there was really two different tracks that were developing. One that was very practical and implementation based, and the other side was more um, physiologic and almost neuroscience based. In fact, it branched off, part of my department branched off and became the neuroscience department at Florida State after I left. And so, long story short, I started to do work with Dean Ornish, then worked in bioinformatics, and eventually made my way into the pharmaceutical space where I worked in medical affairs, where I ran a research grant program for a company that had a medication for sleep in narcolepsy. I knew nothing about sleep and then became completely enamored by the processes of sleep, how it affects our life. And so I started my PhD after working there for almost a decade. And I knew that I didn't want to become a sleep researcher, although that would have been an incredibly satisfying track. But I knew that I wanted to go into, you could say, public health, but I didn't know how to define it or describe it at the time. But what I was most interested in was not just sleep, but sleep, diet, exercise, environment, every determinant of health. And I realized then how do we bring all of that together into some sort of cohesive program process that enables people to live differently in the context of a technology driven world that enables totally unhealthy patterns of living with predictable outcomes. And now we do need to learn in order to counteract those so we can be a little weird, right? We have to be weird, meaning that we have to live differently than how a lot of people live so we don't succumb to the predictable outcomes that you would expect. And that then led to me working on behavior. All right, so really what I want to do is change behavior. So I created a behavior model the first 6 months of my PhD program, analyzed a bunch of well-known behavioral models, turned those into my own behavior model. A behavior model can describe, predict, or explain when behavior change. You can also use it as a template to then enact behavior change. And then that became the foundation of Human OS, which is what I referred to as a digital health training platform. So all different ideas that people were almost confused at first. Well, is this a nutrition platform or is it a sleep platform or exercise? And I said, yes, it's all those things. And so that work led me, to meeting all sorts of interesting people. And then I eventually worked at Restore Hyper Wellness, where I became the chief health officer there and was looking at what I really loved about that opportunity was the fact that that chain or that organization had 250 different franchises. So there feel like there was an opportunity for real reach to get these ideas into the world. And I was there for a while. We ended up going in a different direction. And I actually made the recommendation. I said, you really should replace me with a medical doctor since you're going to be doing more medically oriented wellness activities, lifestyle activities like prescribing, testosterone replacement, things like that. I said, I will consult as long as you need, but my passion, my interest is really still in the scientific wellness space. And so that was a nice amicable departing, but even upon my recommendation. um, but that eventually I've been following the Qualia story for really since the inception. I've known the founders and I've always really liked what they are doing. And I really like supplements. I take them personally. I think they're misunderstood. And I think that they can serve as a very powerful contributing factor to helping us live better, support our health. People can sometimes look at them as a crutch, right? You try to take a supplement just to help you relieve you of your sins of not having a perfect lifestyle. It's hard to have a perfect lifestyle. And I think that they can actually serve as a catalyst that now will contribute to convergent behavior. So if you're doing something already, so you're taking a supplement for a particular purpose, you might do other things that support that process too. So that's my general perspective. And I think you can embed a lot of knowledge into an easily accessible form factor. And they're not a complete solution, but I think that they are an important part. They can play an important role in helping us with our health goals.